students, how are you? Today we will study English lesson of class 7 from Honeycomb book The Squirrel. Let's study the poem and first of all recite it. Have you ever seen the squirrel? Have you seen the squirrel eating? Let's study a poem which is written by Mildred Boyce Armstrong on the squirrel. The Squirrel. The poet who has written the poem is Mildred Boyce Armstrong. Let's recite the poem. He wore a question mark for tail, an overcoat of grey. He sat up straight to eat a nut. He liked to tease and play. And if we ran around the tree, he went the other way. Let's again recite it. He wore a question mark for tail, an overcoat of grey. He sat up straight to eat a nut. He liked to tease and play. And if we ran around the tree, he went the other way. So let's have a look at the picture of squirrel. What the squirrel is doing? The squirrel is eating a nut. So in the same manner, the poet uses his imagination and observes the squirrel while writing the poem. Let us now study what the poet wants to tell us. He wore a question mark for tail. When the poet observes the squirrel, he sees that the shape of the tail is like a question mark. In the same manner, as the question mark is curved, the curved tail is compared to that of the question mark. The squirrel body is covered with grey hairs. So when the poet looks at the body, he says an overcoat of grey. He sees that the squirrel appears as if squirrel is wearing a grey overcoat to protect its body. He sat up straight to eat a nut. What the squirrel is doing? The squirrel is eating a nut. He liked to tease and play. Like other people, the poet also wants to play with the squirrel. But when he looks at the squirrel and goes near, the squirrel, it moves in the other direction. And if we ran around the tree, he went the other way. So when the poet wishes to play with the squirrel, what happens is that the squirrel, it moves in the opposite direction. As the squirrel is very active and runs very fast, so the poet is unable to catch the squirrel. I hope that you must have understood it. Let's have a look at some few questions. How does the tail look like? It looked like that of a question mark. What is the squirrel wearing? An overcoat of grey hairs. Who is the poet? Name the poet. Mildred Boyce Armstrong. What happens when the poet goes near the squirrel? The squirrel moves in the opposite direction. In the same manner, I hope that you have observed and studied the poem well. You can have a list of activities. You can make the picture of squirrel. You can observe the squirrel, what the squirrel does, what the squirrel eats, and how you feel when you see the squirrel. So try to make the description of squirrel. I hope that you must have understood the poem well and enjoy reciting it also. Thank you.